know why, but your favorite class is always your hardest is literally how it started. It was, I could write it. That's my goal. Like, I want to try to write in every single genre that I ever said I was going to write in. And then I really want to decide which ones are my favorite and take off with those. If you're not getting the validation that you need from other people, remember that there's thousands of people in this community that help each other every single day. So if you do need to feel validated, come talk to us. We are here to support, and we're all in it together. There's nothing like gaining a friend that is in the same trenches and same mindset as you.
Hey, Chandler Wolt here, and joining me today is Britney Plumeri. Britney's incredible. She's the author of multiple books in all sorts of genres. So she's had a bunch of success with children's books. She's bridged over into nonfiction. She's bridged into fiction. So I'm excited about a lot of things for this interview, but that's one of them, is just her experience with a bunch of genres. She's also a coach at selfpublishing.com. She's coached hundreds of authors. And we were just doing the tally this morning, completed 1,455 coaching calls with authors, working one-on-one with them, with their book. Undoubtedly, by the time this episode comes out, that will probably be dozens more, maybe even hundreds more. And Brittany's also going to be speaking at Author Advantage Live, our yearly virtual conference this year, talking about all things social media. So we got a lot to unpack in this interview today. Brittany, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. So for starters, let's do a quick plug for folks who don't know Author Advantage Live. This is our virtual event. It's a 3-day event. We always say it's you get more done in 3 days for your author career than probably the whole time you've been working on it. It's an action-packed 3 days. We've got incredible speakers: Gary Vaynerchuk, Dan Martell, John Gordon, Jess Ekstrom, and Brittany. So Brittany, what are you going to be speaking about at the event, and who should come and why should people come to the event?
So I'm just going to start with, last year was my first time at AAL, and I was mind blown. Like, as you had mentioned, I started with children's books, and I was a little bit like, oh, what am I going to get from this? Everything. I got everything. There's so many things that you could take from different genres and totally bring it to what you're focusing on and make it 10 times better. So starting with that, but this year I'm going to be talking about social media. So I'm super pumped about that. How to leverage it, how to use it, how to make it work for you. And who should come? Everyone. If you have a book on your heart, come, because it's worth it.
Cool. Well, guys, go to authorvantagelive.com, grab a ticket. Prices go up soon. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be an amazing event. And we'll talk some social media in this interview today as well, but that'll kind of be, obviously she'll be breaking it down all at the event. So I want to back up. Obviously you have a background as a teacher. What inspired you to start writing children's books, and how did you get that first book written?
Okay. So it was actually my class. Okay. It was probably I don't know why, but your favorite class is always your hardest. It was my hardest class, but it was my favorite class. And they really need to learn a lesson on kindness, but how everything tied up in this perfect bow and just be friends just wasn't going to resonate with them. And I tried, trust me, I tried. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. I could write it. And that is literally how it started. It was, I could do it. Why can't I just get it done? And then it went from research. So I ended up actually taking writing courses. There's a ton of free writing courses, Coursera, Udemy. They have a ton of free different writing courses. So I started with that. And then I found my way into Facebook groups, and realizing that Facebook has so many groups that you can utilize, especially like by genre. And from there, I found mentors. So ones that were already big names in the business. So like Jay Maletsky, Diane Alber, all of them, I had paid them to be my mentor. And then I just went for it. Followed all the necessary steps. I wish I had found this sooner, but I did it all, researching on my own.
That's cool. I like that. Sometimes your most difficult class is your favorite class, because it challenges you to be a better teacher. And also a theme I hear there is just what we talk about all the time: who, not how, right? When you're running into a problem in your life, in your business, ask the question, who has done this before? and then pay them for the shortcuts. You were finding mentors, you were finding people in Facebook, finding courses, stuff like that. I think it's super smart. What are kind of, I know we have a lot of folks in our world who are teachers who kind of similar to your story, they're inspired to write a children's book from their experience, either with the kids that they teach in the classroom or their own kids at home, and reading children's books and thinking like, man, I can't find a book that's teaching the lesson that I'm trying to teach my kids. So why don't I just write it? So can you maybe speak to what was some of that inspiration a little bit? And also, how did you use your experience as a teacher and incorporate that, like the kind of that classroom experience, into some of your books?
Yeah, for sure. So there's inspiration all around. And it doesn't just have to be children's book, right? There's inspiration in every single day. Maybe you are a fantastic cook and you have all these great recipes from your great great grandma. Get those into a book, right? It doesn't just have to be the children around you. It could be your best friend, and you're always the person that they're going to for advice on finances. Like, awesome. Then you should speak to that. Then you're good enough to be able to speak to that. So think about like your everyday life and everything that's surrounding you. You know, there's always a problem to fix. And if you want to be that voice to fix it, writing a book is the option to do that. As far as lessons and teaching, if you guys have read any of my books, I kind of went a little bit veered left, and some of mine are didactic. And that is like something that they just kind of really try to stay away from. It's like more storytelling. Well, being a mom of three, I also have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old now. Um, I know that kids don't really like to just sit still and listen all the time. So I wanted my book to kind of stand out in a way. And I was trying to teach them manners, which is, so I'm veering a little bit. So the children's book was, the first one was for my 4th graders. And then my whole series is for my toddlers. And I wanted them to remember it. So my teachings were brought into the manner one by making it something that they had to touch, jump, and say multiple times. So
Oh, you said that they had it's something they had to touch, say, and jump or something. What was that?
yep. So it's like, you would think I would remember it off the top of my head, but it's like clap your hands, spin around, jump up and down, and say it's fine, fine, fine. So the first one is Mind Monster, and it's all, they have a hard time sharing, and it's mine, mine, mine. So instead of saying mine,
Oh,
jump up and down, you turn around and you say it's fine, fine, fine.
I love
But
that.
it is just like, that's how I incorporated my teaching. Cause like I know
It's
that
cool.
little kids especially don't just want to sit there and be told what to
Hmm.
do. So instead I turned it into like a game in hopes that they would just remember their manners.
That's cool. And I think I love there's a couple things that you said there, which is one, there's inspiration all around. I think that's something I've been reminded of recently. It's like I'm trying to incorporate storytelling, better storytelling into talks that I give. So then naturally I'm starting to look for, okay, I need a story. Right? And when you do, you realize that the most just random normal things in your life, the stories just pop up. I mean, you know the one I told on town hall to the team the other day about the lady, out in the ocean paddling and the wind's coming in and she's not going anywhere. And it's like, okay, the lesson is sometimes we need a smarter approach, right? And her family's yelling out to her, Mom, get down on your knees and paddle. Don't stand up. But she couldn't hear that. And it's like, so you could take 5 different lessons or 5 different angles on that story, right? And so I think there's inspiration all around. I love that. Second thing I heard from that and took from what you just said is the like as a teacher or as a parent, you have an unfair advantage because you're working with kids all day anyway. So you know what they like and you know what works, what doesn't work, which is a feedback loop that you can't get in a book, right? You send out a book and you don't really, that's the weird thing about being an author is you don't really see people often interacting with that thing. But when you're teaching, you get instant feedback loops. So I want to drill into that a little bit. First off, I'll just throw back question. What does didactic mean? And what are some other things about kind of how you taught that translated over into how you wrote children's books that are engaging?
So didactic is when you talk to the reader. It's kind of very frowned upon in children's books, even though it's kind of showing up a little bit more like the Penguin books or the monster that says don't touch the red button. For a while, it was like, no, everything had to be in storytelling and you always had to do in 3. And I do have stories like that, obviously, but this one specific thing, when I really want them to learn something, I felt it was better for me to do it this way. And especially because I do it at home with my kids, Especially the whiny werewolf. That's the one because the whines can like make anybody's like ears ring. So I just make them howl instead. And I would rather a howl over a whine every day. So that's kind of why that worked. But and the didacticness of that worked. I'm so sorry. What was the second part again?
No, that's good. I was asking about incorporating ways that you teach in the book, but I think that's an example of how you do it. So, can you give me an example of that? Like, what would a didactic phrase or something in a book look like?
So mine exactly is okay, so Ellie's mom is sitting on the couch cozy and warm under Ellie's favorite blanket. Oh no, get your binoculars ready. Here comes mine monster Ellie. She's running as fast as she can. Quick, tell her to stop. Stop. And then I say jump up and down and turn around and say it's fine, fine, fine. We don't need to yell. What's a kind word Ellie can use to ask for her blanket? And that's all in the book, not like the and the dramaticness
Ah,
of it,
mm,
but I
got
simply
it.
say like that the child has to respond.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Nice. I love that. That's really cool. So let's talk about, obviously you've had success and a lot of experience as a children's book author. Over the last, I don't know how long you've been genre hopping, and obviously you've done some nonfiction. Now you're experimenting with a lot of fiction. What are the biggest lessons that you've learned from that that might be helpful for authors who either are writing in those genres or considering genre hopping?
You need to know each genre. Each genre has very specific rules. Even though children's book I played with a little bit, which you can, especially with children, and if you know them, you know that it's easy to kind of mess around with. But when it comes to other ones, it's like the readers are what makes you have to stick to the rules of what is done. So the word count, all of them have different word counts. The way the story is told, all of them are different from start to finish. With romance, God forbid I end that with them not ending happily ever after, riots. Okay. So that wouldn't be romance. That would be women's fiction. So you want to make sure that whatever genre you're doing, you are staying so close to the rule book because, as you know, I don't know about you, but have you ever picked up a book and you were reading it and you assumed it was one thing and it wasn't? I'm being dead serious. Did you ever pick up a book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I picked up Colleen Hoover. It ends with us. Okay. Everybody told me she was a romance author. Spoiler alert, I was devastated. I I was lied to. And it was the first time in my life where I was like, I get it. Because at first, as you're writing, it's like, why do you have to do it this way? But it's so,
Mm,
as a reader, you're like, I was expecting this. And when I didn't get it, I was like flipping tables. I'm like, what is
mm,
this? So you want
mm.
to make sure that you're saying very to the rule book of each genre. That is like the biggest tip I can absolutely give.
Mm. So no, understand the genre and then
Mhm.
write to genre, which I know Rami talks about this a lot. For those who don't know, we have a fiction arm of the company, we have a children's book arm of the company, we have a nonfiction arm of the company. And so Rami runs the fiction arm of the company, and you can check out, he's had multiple episodes on this podcast. But so he talks about writing to genre, and we've got kind of the fundamentals of fiction and story. Then we've got our children's book school, which Brittany runs. And then we've got our nonfiction, all of our nonfiction coaching and programs and all that stuff. So, right to genre, it's a big thing. And on the fiction side of things, if I'm not mistaken, you did children's books, multiple, then nonfiction, now fiction. Is that kind of the sequence?
So I am doing a challenge, a personal challenge for myself to
Mm-hmm.
write in a new genre every month. It's just something that I'm trying to do because I've always wanted to do it and I've just keep letting life hit. And as we know as writers, sometimes we call life hitting a little bit of procrastination. So this isn't the year for that anymore. So I wasted all of January and I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm doing it. So February, I started and I did a romance novel in the month of February. The edits came back. That was already been edited, so I'm super pumped about that. March, I did my nonfiction. April, I did a middle grade, which I didn't make the cut on that one, so I have to finish that. And then May, I did 6 other children's books for a series that I'm doing. So
Oh
now
my gosh.
that's that's my goal. Like I want to try to write in every single genre that I ever said I was going to write in, and then I really want to decide which ones are my favorite and take off with those.
Cool. So you're now doing experimentation with a bunch of different genres, obviously doing this challenge. And then you're going to write a bunch of drafts and then circle back and decide which one to publish.
I'm going to publish them all. They're all going to get
Got it.
published.
Got it. And how are you going to sequence that? Like, what's that going to look like?
So right now I'm taking, so obviously I just said, well, what was that, like 9, 10 books? I'm doing those in editing for the summer. So because summer is crazy. So from June to August, all of them are in editing. All of them will get completed editing. Then when September hits, I want to start figuring out the launch dates. But my goal is, because I wrote them all this year, that next year, every month, I'm going to release a different one, like the
Hmm,
one that
cool.
coincides with the launch.
Nice. That's fun. I like that strategy. Now, I think one just disclaimer for folks listening, especially if you're first time author, if you're thinking about working with us, or if you're already working with us, which, by the way, if you're already working with us, we'll touch on in this episode later, some lessons learned to get the most out of your coaching journey and your author journey with us, as well as working with Brittany. But if you're hearing all this, I would just give a huge disclaimer of like, you got to know the rules to then be able to break the rules. And one big thing that we tell first time authors is you can't write multiple books at a time, right? You got to focus on one book and then write and publish that one book, because as you said, Brittany, it's often a form of procrastination for first time authors. It's like, oh, I'm going to write a
Yeah.
little bit in this, and I'm going to write a little bit, and then you end up with 5 unpublished books, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Brittany is a pro. She's done this before multiple times. She's doing this as an experiment. So it's fun. It makes sense. It's this thing that she's always wanted to do, right? But for you as the first time author, you are not the exception to the rule. I promise you. You're going to think, but I can do it. I can do multiple books. No, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Write one book, finish that one book. And I think what we can learn from Brittany's example too is oftentimes it is easier if you have multiple ideas to start with nonfiction. Right now, maybe
Oh,
it's easier to start with a children's book because it's less words, but then there is some complexity in that where it's hard to be succinct, right? So it's like those two are probably a little bit easier to start with. Fiction is super hard. We joke in the fiction world, that real authors write fiction, and that seems to just rile up a lot of people. But because it's just so much harder, right? And so that's the big disclaimer I would give to people listening to this or watching this. Anything you would say on that, Brittany?
yeah, no, definitely don't be me. I've started in 2017. And when I say like now I'm doing this, I told you guys from the beginning, like 2017, I started. I didn't publish my first book until 2020. And I'm just going to March 4th, 2020. So, okay. Talk about a failure. All right. So all of this build up to publish March 4th, 2020. So you want to stay extremely focused to what you're doing. And I'm going to back that up, that nonfiction out of all the ones that I'm writing. And I'm not, you know, was the easiest. And it's because it's
Mm,
me. It's coming from me. It's my voice. It's my teachings. It is the easiest one out of all of them. There's no world building. There's no other character. It's just me.
that's
So
cool.
much better.
That's helpful. I hope you're loving this episode so far. So if you're serious about writing and publishing your book, we would love to chat with you and help create a custom plan. All right. So all you need to do right now is go to selfpublishing.com/schedule. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with one of the experts on my team. All right. Let's implement what you're learning in this episode and let's see how we can help with your book. Go to selfpublishing.com/schedule. I touched on this earlier, but obviously Brittany is one of our superstar coaches at selfpublishing.com. Her authors love her. We love her. She's amazing. So, Brittany, why did you decide to transition from teaching to coaching, and what's that experience been like?
So, really, it came down to my kids. I'm gonna call a spade in the beginning. It's definitely came down to my kids. Like I said, I have 3 kids. I have a 6, a 3, and a 1. And my goal is to be present. I didn't want to be the mom that was like working late or dropping them off early or doing all those things. And I was like, I need to find something that came like I could be from home. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have not looked at, I don't even know if I told you the story. I don't look at LinkedIn. I've never, if you ever went to my LinkedIn, I think it's fixed now because I work here, but I didn't check it in years. And I don't know why, but that one specific day when I decided enough's enough, I need to figure something out. I went to LinkedIn and I saw your listing for the job.
You're kidding.
That ever in years. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. You guys already had like 150 applications. I was like, there's no way. I'm just going to do it. And if my best friend was not sitting on the couch next to me, she was like, just do it. I was like, I don't think so. They're not going to hire me. She goes, just apply. So it all was like serendipitous that this happened. And let me tell you right now, there was a part of me on my last day that I was like distraught and sad. And I was like, oh, I'm changing the world. I'm changing these minds. I'm changing. I can't even tell you these stories that you all are coming to me with and how, oh, I hate this. Like, I'm gonna tear up. How much of a difference your books are making and that I get to be a part of that. Like, it is teaching, it's just in a different avenue of teaching, and it has brought me to, like, I'm not just helping the 24 kids in my classroom now I'm helping thousands of
Mm,
people because any book that they buy, there's a part of me in that that's, and that's amazing. Like, it's so cool to be able to help these people change the world. And that's the one part of it. And the second part is just like the teaching in general. It's the same. It's just helping somebody get from point A to point B and being in the room with these other coaches and these other authors that have done. One of our coaches hit like, he goes, on Monday's Whack, he goes, I don't remember what deal I just signed, but I think it was for Korea. And I was mind blown. You don't remember what deal you just signed? Like, are you kidding? They make me want to be better, which made me even want to do this challenge to begin with. So there's so many positives of my transition to being here.
that's cool. Well, we're excited to have you. And I think I love what you said. You're able to help hundreds of authors. And then that means tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of readers, right? And so the leveraged impact, right? The power of a book, you do the work once, that book then gets created and goes on to impact a ton of people. So let's kind of transition into Coach's Corner. So you've, as we said, helped coach one-on-one hundreds of authors as of this morning, 1,455 coaching calls. I want to walk through some lessons learned, some mistakes that you see. I mean, I think this is just for if you're listening to this right now or watching this, I mean, this is a front row seat in the trenches to what's actually working. And so whether you're considering working with us or already working with us, this is going to be super, super helpful for your author journey. And so I guess, Brittany, the starting point would be, you have clarity calls when people start to work with us, right? That's where you help them get clear on their idea, who they're writing it for, all that. So kind of starting to map out the plan. Super, super important part of the process. I personally think that call alone saves people dozens, if not hundreds of hours and helps make their book exponentially more successful, right? Because you're chiseling a plan where a lot of people either don't have a plan or they have a bad plan and they don't know that they have a bad plan, right? So I guess with that in mind, what's the number one challenge that a lot of your authors face either as part of the starting the process or just in the journey as a whole?
So a lot of challenges that are faced are very consistent what comes up, right? The first one is imposter syndrome. Okay. And that is huge. That comes up all the time. And I say the same thing every single time. If the story is on your heart, write the story. You're not an imposter. Nobody started out this way. You think, like, look at these major, major authors. We'll talk about authors like J.K. Rowling, right? She was homeless, writing on napkins, had thousands of no's, and then finally, look at her now, right? Think about all of the people that started, they started just like us, right? They didn't have anything to help them start. They weren't anybody. Nobody started on a high level. Everybody started at ground zero. So imposter syndrome, yes, it can be, it can really break you down, but at the same exact time, it's just a way that you're doubting yourself. And you shouldn't doubt yourself because you got this far. You put words on a paper, you got this far. Keep going. Okay. You don't know who needs to hear your story. Even if it's one person whose life you're going to change by your book, those words should be on that paper. So that's the first one.
Mm-hmm. And what else? What are other? Because yeah, that definitely comes up a ton. What are other kind of sticking points do you have to coach people through as they're in their journey?
Life gets in the way. It's always going to get in the way. So all of those, this hit, I didn't get to do it. I didn't get to do it. A sentence a day. Even on your hardest of days, even when you are lying in bed with a fever, one sentence is going to push you further every single time than doing nothing that day. And then you also are going to have the stress of, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it, which makes it not fun anymore. It makes it more of a chore that you were supposed to do it instead of the reason why you're doing it. Nobody was forcing you to write the book. You wanted to write the book. Hence why you're writing the book. So the only person you're holding back by not doing that one sentence a day is yourself.
I like that. And this is often when people because they start off, they're really excited, they start making progress, and inevitably life happens, and then there's a hiccup or a speed bump, and people will often come and ask the question, "Hey, how do I get back on track?" And I love that sentence today because it's what's the smallest amount of, or really, I guess, the biggest thing that you can consistently do every day is always the question I ask. So is it a sentence? Is it 100 words? Is it like, what is that thing that no matter what, come hell or high water, I'm doing it? And that's how you build momentum and rebuild, in some cases, momentum. Now, I want to talk about kind of maybe the start of the process. You probably don't, I guess maybe you don't hear this as much as probably the sales team. I'm just thinking about what keeps people from getting started and even starting it to begin with. Now, a lot of times that happens in the sales conversation because they're like, oh, maybe later, maybe next year, all that stuff. And so they don't even sign up with us. And once they sign up with us, I mean, people who pay attention, right? So they've spent money. Now they're in a different mode when they come on that call. But from your experience, what have you seen that keeps people from even getting started and making that buying decision? Or now they're with you and you're coaching them, but you're like, yo, we got to get moving on this book.
I will say a lot of it is the fear of what people are going to think. And I know that's like, I'm going to quote Mel Robbins on this. And she said this one thing and it's been with me ever since. Do they pay your bills? Then why do you care? Right? Like it was just so good. She was like, do they pay your bills? Then why do you care what they have to say? And it's crazy to me, especially being in the space for so long. One thing I love more than anything about this group too is the community that we have. Like some of these authors are, I would even consider them like my little besties now. Like we get our coffee every single Thursday at 10 a.m. We all are hanging out on questions and answers. Like it's the community, and it's not always going to be the people that around you that are going to be the ones that support you. I was very lucky with the people that I have around me, but that is something that I think really needs to be validated for a lot of people, and that's what holds you back is your fear of what somebody is
Mm.
going. But the internet, it's an endless possibility, and it could go two ways, right? It can go really wrong or really right. And most of the time, it's going to go really right.
Right. And man, that's so good because sometimes you just got to take a stand for what you think and what you believe and not worry about what people think. And I think this is the sad part is that I see often is, people they should on you. Right? You should do this. You should not do that. And they discourage you. I mean, I felt this when I dropped out of school. It was an unconventional path and a lot of people came out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, you shouldn't do this. Like this is a dumb idea." And I just felt conviction like, "Hey, this is the best thing for my career and for what I want to build as an entrepreneur and stuff like that." But I think where we see it in the author world is family members or friends saying, "What? Who are you to write a book?" And even
Yeah.
worse, spouses. I mean, let's just be straight up about this. Often it's spouses saying, "You can't do that." Or like, "You did what? You sign up to do this book? What? Hold up. No, we're not doing that." And it's just, in my opinion, one of the saddest things ever when it's just like this person has this dream that they've had for oftentimes over a decade.
Yeah.
And it is I'm not want to say an insignificant amount of money, but like compared to all the other stuff in life that we spend money on, it's like we spend a lot more money on things that we haven't dreamed about for a decade. And so
Yeah.
I guess in that vein, what's your advice for getting for that person who's maybe listening to this is like, dang, I don't have a good support system. How can they get the support from their spouse or their family, or is that even something that they should be concerned about?
We all want validation, and we all want to be told that this idea is a good idea. When it comes to your spouse and your family, if you can't be genuinely honest with them, like, hey, listen, like this is something I really want to do. It's not anything to you. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to do this because it's my dream. I don't see how they wouldn't be willing to support that. Like it's not like your dream is all of a sudden going to change who you are. And I think that's a big thing too. Like people are nervous about the change of what's going to happen if you do something like this, but it's speaking up for yourself, right? Putting it where it is. When I first said that I was going to write a book, I was like, I didn't tell anybody. Like when I tell you guys, like I did it in the dark. I was like, I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to publish it. I was surprised more about the support that was there that I didn't think I was going to have by doing this. And this was my own mental mindset. And it might be for you too. But if it's something that you really want to do and you are nervous about what everybody else says, do it in the dark. Do it in the dark. Get your book done and then be like, hey, I did this. I did
Mm.
this.
Oh, cool. That's good. So either sometimes you got to sell yourself and
Yep.
believe in yourself. And that's where oftentimes when people talk with our team, whether it's the sales team or our coaches, they borrow a little bit of our belief in them that they can actually do it. But then once you're bought in, you sell the people around you so that they see the vision. Because if they don't see the vision, of course they're not going to be supportive, right? So it's your job to show them the vision. But then to your point, if you've done it and they're still not on board, well, then go do your thing, create in silence, and then show them the results. And listen to a Steve Martin biography right now, and he talks about how his dad just like didn't respect his comedy and for years and years and years, but he kept doing it. And then eventually it got so big that it's just like, all right, here's the proof, right? This has been wildly successful. And so, man, that's just a really great advice. I'm going to lightning round a few more questions because we're running out of time. I want to flip kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. Your most successful authors that you've worked with, what's the common trait or traits that they have that someone coming in to work with us or work with you or just listen to this podcast that they can emulate?
They have the desire. They have done the research. They've looked around. They know, what they could do, right? They are coming in with a story so dead set that they want to help people that they're like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. Keep me accountable. Let's do this. So my most successful authors literally come in ready to go. They're past the point of needing validate. They're past the point of like caring what other people think and are so focused on the end goal that they're like, this is it. This is going to be what happens. I'm ready. I want to get it done by September. They come in with like I want this done and out by September. It's like, whoa, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. It's going to be a lot on your end, but we'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. Let's go. But I want to go back a second too, because I just want to say it one more time, the community here, right? Like if you're not getting the validation that you need from other people, remember that there's thousands of people in this community that help each other every single day. So if you do need to feel validated, come talk to us. We are here to support and we're all in it together. There's nothing like gaining a friend that is in the same trenches and same mindset as you.
That's good. What would you say? So let's say someone just signed up to work with us or is about to sign up to work with us. That first clarity call, really pivotal part of their journey and really helpful part of their journey. How can authors prepare to get the most out of that call in their first call with you?
So when you sign up, you get access to a course. My best advice is to look at the mind mapping portion and the outlining portion and come with some sort of idea of how you want this book to be. What you want to include in it, what you're hoping that who this book is going to help, your target audience, which is, the people that you want to get this book in front of, coming with some sort of an idea of what exactly is going to be in this book, and then we can help you the rest of the way.
And then beyond that first call, what can people do to get the most out of their coaching calls with you and their coaching journey?
So personally, I set deadlines for mine. I refer to it as homework. Okay. I got a couple of jokes of, oh, I didn't have it today. I feel like I'm going to the principal's office. Well, you are, because this was homework. So the goal is to know that you're being held accountable, right? It's, I want you to succeed. You want you to succeed. So we have to meet the deadlines that we're trying to get at, right? Because we want to get this book out. So it's coming in with the mindset of, I know I'm going to put in the work and I'm going to get something amazing in return. So we'll set the deadlines, we'll work together. You join the group coaching calls. There is nothing more valuable than all of the group coaching calls that we have a week and being a part of this community. I cannot stress that part enough. That's what is the changing between somebody who only comes and sits and also takes part in the community. There's a big difference between the two. And I don't care if you watch them later on and you just comment afterwards or just comment every once in a while on somebody's Facebook post. Be a part of the community and be in the same mindset as these other authors.
That's great. And for those who don't know, the group coaching calls, I mean, pretty self-explanatory is kind of in the name, but we have hundreds of group coaching calls or you have access to hundreds of group coaching calls, maybe even thousands over the course of each year that you work with us. And so 5 days a week, we have these. You can pop into a Zoom room. There's writing rooms where you can write, get in a group with people and just write for an hour. And it's an accountability mechanism. So maximize the group coaching calls. That gives you a ton of leverage on your time. And then also obviously maximize the one-on-ones and do the homework and all that stuff. So what would be, and so if folks want to, if you're thinking about working with us at selfpublishing.com, just go to selfpublishing.com/talk, book a call with the team. That's a free call. It's a strategy session. We can walk you through your idea, your goals for your book, stuff like that. And then if you're a fit to work with us, we can go through details. And if you're lucky, you might have Brittany as your coach. So go to selfpublishing.com/talk, book a call with the team. Any inspiration for folks who are thinking about working with us?
Do it. I didn't have access to something like this, and I wish I had. So just take the plunge.
Cool. Well, guys, book a call with the team. We'd love to chat with you about your book and help you and come alongside your journey. And then the last thing, I know we mentioned this at the top of the episode, but Author Advantage Live is coming in hot. Obviously, Brittany is speaking at the event. We're really, really excited about it. We're talking social media for authors. So don't wait, get your ticket. It's going to be an amazing 3-day virtual experience. Go to authoradvantagelive.com, authoradvantagelive.com, grab a ticket. I know you've been doing a lot of training, Brittany, in the community on social media, and I know it can be really scary for authors. But this is your first time speaking in Author Advantage Live, right?
Yeah. Talk about scary.
Well, you've had a lot of good practice teaching what's working, doing it yourself, and teaching it in the community. So we can't wait. Last thing, Brittany, where can people go to check out your books, find out more about your stuff as an author, all that good stuff?
So I am on social media as by BY Brittany, Brittany, Plumeri, Plumeri.
Cool. Check it out, guys. Obviously, she's got her books on Amazon. You can find a bunch of children's books, nonfiction books, etc., and a lot more books incoming. Brittany, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Self-Publishing School podcast. I know there's so many places that you could be spending your time. There's other podcasts that you could be listening to, YouTube channels that you could be watching. So thank you so much. It means the world. Now, I want you to do 3 things right now if you found this episode helpful. I don't know if you know this, but we've got a YouTube channel. It's a companion channel to this podcast. All the video versions of the episode are on the YouTube channel. So number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Number 2, if you're listening to this podcast wherever, whether this is Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Number 2, I want you to subscribe to this podcast right now so you don't miss a future episode. And then number 3, this is probably the most important, leave a review on the podcast. All right, reviews are super important and help this podcast get discovered by other people. So number 3, leave a review on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode.